Hello, nerds.
Hello, geeks.
Hello, gamers.
Hello, dweebs.
Hello, fanboys.
Hello, fangirls.
Hello, fan persons.
Of all races, genders, and creeds.
Welcome back to another episode of Meanwhile Back on the Podcast. I'm Saba.
I'm Frank.
I'm Chris.
I'm Christina.
Meanwhile, back on the podcast, four colossal nerds named Saba, Chris, Christina, and Frank have set out to take on a great darkness that has enveloped the world of fandom. With their powers of common sense and the strength to take on even the most butthurt Twitter mobs and insufferable comment section trolls, they fight for truth, objectivity, and nuance in the conversation and debate over fictional made-up shit.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us again. We got a great episode lined up for you today. So if you guys follow us on Instagram, I'm sure you know that opening weekend we went to see the Joker film, all four of us. This weekend I actually got to go see it a second time. So today's show is going to be spoiler hot, and we're going to talk about the Joker film. We're going to give you our thoughts, our impressions, what our takeaways were. So just an early warning, if you didn't see the film, put this thing on pause, get out to the movie theater, go see the movie. Don't torrent it. And come back and listen to us after you've seen the film. So yeah, here we go. I don't know if you guys saw those links I sent you from Twitter, but it looks like a lot of people couldn't make it through this movie. A lot of people walked out of this movie. I saw a lot of people walk out of my second showing. I think we saw some people walk out of our first showing.
Yeah, that
right?
kind of freaked me out. I didn't know what that was all about. I'm like, why are people grabbing their shit and going?
Yeah, that's not the movie you want to be walking out of in the middle of it. It just kind of raises eyebrows immediately, right?
I was ready to I was watching. I'm like, what's going on? Where
I
are these
was
people
watching
going?
too.
Like, my eyes were on the people, not the screen.
Yeah,
I
same.
didn't even notice.
Same.
Oh, no,
I was looking at
noticed.
people too.
I was just like,
yeah.
anytime behavior and somewhere in public and someone's behavior is abnormal,
Yeah.
my eyes zone in on the person that's like abnormal.
The only person I know is the dude behind me who went to go to the washroom and come back and almost kneed me in the head.
Oh.
There was that guy. But other than that, yeah, I guess the whole leaving the theater thing is quite interesting. This is something we've kind of talked about before, about people feeling uncomfortable. Or the other thing you brought up was violence.
Yeah, a lot of people were uncomfortable with the content of this film, and there's a lot of people that have written to Warner Brothers asking them to take it, take it out of theaters, to ban it. And I just, I get that this movie can make some people feel uncomfortable, but I think it's a good uncomfortable. I think it's an uncomfortable that the society needs right now.
Is it just that some people weren't expecting that from sort of a superhero film, or?
I think going into
I
it,
don't know if anybody went into that movie thinking it was a superhero film.
Also,
I thought it would be dark. I assumed it would be dark. So I was prepared for any kind of violence that might come onto the screen. And I'm not really a fan of super violent things. I didn't think it was that bad compared to some other things I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So the movie at times made me uncomfortable, but it was on purpose. The movie did that on purpose, and I thought it was brilliant the way they can make me sit there and put me in the room with Arthur Fleck and kind of because he was uncomfortable, the main character was uncomfortable in the movie, and he really they really draw you to him at that moment, and it was that's the punchline of the movie. I don't why would people dislike that? I don't understand really.
For me personally, I think the same thing. Going into it, I was not surprised that this is where he was going. Todd Phillips is very clear about where this movie was going to be and how it was going to be done. And like you both mentioned about feeling uncomfortable, I think it's something you need to sit in and you need to think about why you feel that way. When something makes me feel uncomfortable, when I feel intimidated or I see something that makes me angry, I think, okay, what is this thing doing that is triggering that within me? And I think if you just kind of walk out of that movie without sort of seeing it, I think that's kind of where the conversation stops. And to sort of learn from these things, you need to have a conversation. That means sitting there and listening to things that maybe you're uncomfortable with to maybe try and understand. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything Arthur Fleck did. Obviously, this character, something that Chris mentioned at one point was he's an unreliable narrator. He's not somebody that we can fully trust all the time. But I think it is important to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the things that made me uncomfortable was where I related to the character too much. So kind of like him standing up to his bullies and then feeling super elated and like dancing in the street or something. That's something I would do. So like I was just like, oh, okay, that's like a little too real for me. Or laughing at like really inappropriate moments. Also something that I would do just like out of nervous habit kind of thing. So yeah, just kind of small things like that, or things that kind of was like, oh man, I like relate too much to this character.
All right, so let's unpack this film a little bit. So when we meet Arthur, he's on the streets of, no, actually, sorry, he's in front of a mirror, and he's kind of putting on his clown makeup. He's putting on a mask almost, right?
In the one tier. And how powerful was that initial scene? As soon as I saw that scene, I was like, okay, we're in for a fucking ride here, because like the way that Joaquin conveys that this is a man that's forcing himself to try and be happy, even though he doesn't want to be. Like the way that he forces his mouth up into that smile, and then you see the tear once he does hit that smile. Like once he gets the corners of his mouth high enough to make a smile, you see that tear hit his face, and it's just like it's this dichotomy, you know. It's this idea of, you know, wearing masks to hide our true feelings and our true emotions, right? And I think this plays back into one of the jokes that we hear, I think, is midway through the movie. Or, well, you don't hear it, but he writes it down on a piece of paper. And he goes, you know what the funniest thing about having a mental illness is that people expect you to act like you don't. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very, very powerful statement. And and honestly, after my second viewing in this movie, I walked out of there convinced that Todd Phillips picked this character because he is so connected to the comic book universe, and the comic book universe being the major box office monster that it is in terms of putting butts in the seats. I almost felt like he picked this character because he knew that the message would get across to a lot more people than doing some sort of art house kind of like, you know, unknown character. I think he used a name that would really kind of deliver this message the way that he wanted to. And I think this movie is extremely important. And I think that a lot of people need to sit with whatever discomfort that they were going through, and they need to get the message.
I also think that it's really easy to vilify what we don't understand.
Yeah.
So I think that was also part of his intent. So maybe he somehow connected with the Joker, and he thought like, oh, what if it all went down a little bit differently? Or how did the Joker come to be like this? So I feel like that was there. I feel like he liked that aspect of the character.
Right.
And then talking more about sort of Todd Phillips, like I mentioned before, he did say that this is not going to be like your sort of comic book like movie. Obviously, they are using a name that is very famous in the comic book world. I mean,
yeah,
he's probably one of the most famous villains there are.
Without
Joker,
a doubt.
Up there with like Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
So using that iconic thing would definitely get more butts in the seat. But I think also like looking into this movie, one thing to sort of think about is what is real and what isn't real. That was the one thing I really got from that movie. Is there are things that, and we see it more on, and Chris will say that he spotted the one.
Yeah, so like the girl character, I found it a little bit off, but it like.
Before we get into some of the other characters, let's talk about his life though. Let's talk about the life that he's living in this movie in a little bit more detail. So obviously he's working at a party store, people that rent out clowns, strippers, whatever. And he's.
You think all those things were lumped into one there?
Yeah, usually those companies.
I missed that.
Usually those companies have strippers and clowns, and it's like it's a one-stop party shop, right? Like that kind of places.
I feel like there were no
he was doing kids parties.
I think Brian Callen was a stripper. He was wearing a tuxedo.
Really?
Yeah, some people were saying he's a stripper.
I missed
that.
Oh,
yeah. I think Brian Callen played a stripper.
What if he was a magician?
What? That's true too.
I got a magician.
Could have been a magician. Okay, could have been a magician.
Okay, strippers, magicians, whatever.
Can I just say my brother's looking forward to Brian Callen's role, and he had like one line, and he's like completely naked in the movie. It's so funny.
Like Mark Maron as well. But yeah.
I was looking forward to Maron. I was, yeah, but he only got that one line,
the
right?
Assistant.
Yeah, yeah, he was the backstage assistant guy. Yeah. So he's working for this, this clown rent out company, whatever. and he's obviously, doesn't have a girlfriend, doesn't really have a lot of friends. The guys he works with see him as kind of a weirdo, but he's got a couple of close friends. Some seem to be nice to him. Some seem to be taking the piss out of him.
Close friends. I would say they're kind of just like trying to understand him a little bit.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's like fair.
People with empathy. Some of his coworkers have more empathy.
That's a good way of putting it.
That's
a good way of putting it. Okay, so he does have some people around him that have a little bit of empathy, right? And then we basically see him go through this crucible of like just horrible shit. Like we see him, within the first 5 minutes, he gets the shit kicked out of him by a bunch of kids. Now, let's talk about that scene, because that scene's kind of odd to me. When the kids knocked him on the ground and they were like, he's weak. Like, what kids would sit cliche. There and it seemed really forced.
Cliche. Kids can be little shit sometimes.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be cliche. Gotham, and it's supposed to be the 80s.
Yeah,
so
it still felt like it
I'm
was
just saying
a
the nature of
man.
human beings. Like
I feel like they could have made the kids a little older, so it's a little bit more believable.
I think they made them young because of what happens with the stockbrokers on the subway. Because to have Arthur Fleck react violently to kids, right? Kids can get away with that shit,
though,
right?
That's a little bit more believable.
Sure.
Because 14 or 15-year-olds are a little taller, like a little bit more shitheads. Like,
sure.
Kind of like they could have. I'm thinking of like a Clockwork Orange. They could have made them more like the guys from a Clockwork Orange, so it's a little bit more believable than like, I don't know. These kids were like 10.
See, I found that scene weird because so pretty much it was like it felt like a straw man, like oh, we're gonna set this guy up as like the victim, whatever. So it felt like it was kind of like this, like
it
this
felt
thing
unearned.
Yeah, it was unearned, and then I'm like, okay, so maybe they're just trying to establish that this city, something's weird with the city, and this like usually happens.
Yeah.
But then the guy addresses it later and says, why would kids do this random thing that doesn't make any sense? And then I asked myself the same question, like, why would they do that? Why would you put that in the movie, right? So it's like if they never address like, why would the kids just randomly steal your sign? That's a very good question. You probably shouldn't have had it in the movie.
I do have a theory about this, but I'm gonna wait until we talk about the whole movie.
Okay.
But I don't know like how plausible it is.
It's not real either.
I don't know how plausible it is,
that
Christopher.
scene would be very brilliant because it would be like nobody would steal your sign. Just give him the sign back.
He's making a story to
right?
to sort of like that's my thing is like what I'm going towards. Like he's making the story to like vilify. Them. But yeah.
But the thing is, like, he doesn't want to be a victim, right? He doesn't really. Like he's been victimized his entire life, but he doesn't fantasize about being a victim because every time he's had a fantasy, it's always been he's the hero. He's like loved and he's respected and he's like popular and whatever, right? So it doesn't fit that sort of that weird narrative, but we'll get to it later.
I feel like it was meant to happen, but I just feel like it wasn't. It was meant to be grounded in reality, but it didn't feel real because they didn't give it a motive. So.
Yeah.
Did anybody notice that after you got the shit kicked out of him, he kind of got, like, for some reason, he decided to squirt the water out of his flower on his lapel?
No, I didn't notice that.
Like, it was almost like the scene had to go out on a beat of, like, like joy and happiness, like some sort of joke, some sort of, like...
After he got beat up,
lighter
after he was
moment,
just lying in the street?
He was lying in the street.
Yeah.
He reached into his jacket, and he squirted his flower on the ground. Almost like, I don't know if it was symbolic.
That was a very troubling line.
I don't know if it was symbolic of blood or tears or whatever, but the fact that he went to that degree to actually finish the scene like that was kind of interesting.
So I was one time randomly beat up in the street, but it was by someone older.
Were?
Yeah, but it was by someone older, like an older lady. She was probably about 40, and she was homeless and like not right in the head. And she had some kind of delusion that I was somebody who abused a child.
Yeah, yeah. See,
and she was telling me that I was abusing children.
Oh
and then
God.
she started hitting me. And it was quite terrifying. I was just like, I did nothing like that. Like, what are you talking about? And she punched me in the stomach. She threw me, she tried to grab a sign and hit me with a metal sign.
What?
So I ran into stopped traffic. And I tried to get towards where the streetcar is because I know where we live in Toronto, the streetcars go in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
You had to cross a couple lanes of traffic to get there. So I tried to do that. She chased me through the cars. The cars started to move. And then she tried to grab my hair and pull me into moving cars. and several people had to like. Eventually, people helped us, but not at first.
Oh my god!
So yeah, it was pretty terrifying.
That's fucked up.
Things do happen like that.
That's fucked up.
Like this woman was definitely on drugs or something.
Right.
Wait, did the cops come or anything?
So 4 men had to hold her back. She punched one of them in the face.
What?
And then she ran into an alley. And one guy stayed with her because he wanted to like report it. And I called 911.
Holy shit!
And then some of the guys went amongst their business. Some of them hung around as witnesses. But yeah, like it was pretty scary.
The last thing I want to say with the sign scene is like, dude, obviously this was a group of kids who were out for a laugh. They thought it'd be funny to steal the sign. He chases after him. If he didn't chase after them, he wouldn't get the shit kicked out of him, right? Plus, like they're kids, right? So I think that this scene was to set up the fact that the stockbrokers were even worse because they're adults. He probably didn't want to hit mature.
So that's the thing. Like I got beat up because I didn't want to hit her back. Like I could have probably hit her back, but I don't want to.
Yeah, no.
But I don't think Joker
I
in that scene had any opportunity to hit back. Like he was knocked.
They're children though, so maybe that's why they made them children. That could be.
No, but he was knocked on his ass immediately.
Yeah,
and there was no fight.
He took a sign.
Can I just say he got hit by a car later in that movie and kept running?
I saw that.
Yeah, he fell when he got hit by a wooden sign, but the car didn't take him down.
My theory is that like because he was already like becoming the Joker. I mean, it still wouldn't fix physicality. He's like a skeleton. I guess. Never mind. Disregard that.
I think. Sorry, go ahead, Selma.
But let's talk about those stockbrokers. Like you know, when we're comparing the two acts, you know, like these children kind of chasing him, and then you have these stockbrokers who are singing this like Broadway song, word for word, which is also makes me point towards this seems like sort of a thing that he's creating to create this story. You know, coming up to him and then the reaction he has to that and how he kind of flips that switch.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Frank is what you're trying to say is that is like a trigger for that. It's like this is like sort of like all his internalized feelings, and then finally like this is like it's that show Snapped about like those like women who kill their husbands and it's like and then she snapped. It's like his moment.
Could it be adrenaline? Maybe adrenaline made him not react when he got hit by the car and gave him the power to beat up.
Adrenaline is like the only thing.
And he also had a gun when he beat up those guys, so that like gives you extra confidence.
Okay, so now that we're talking about like Saba mentioned, Izzy, like the idea that this could potentially just be something, another delusion, right? How many of you guys think that this movie happened for real? Like in terms of the character, like the character lived through these moments, and how many of you guys think this was just all a delusion in his head?
Show of hands for everyone who's listening. I honestly, I'm on the I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay.
But I think, and as I was looking more into some of the scenes, and we'll talk about them as scenes come up, I think there's more merit in it.
Okay.
Than it being completely like 0% chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, like these like. So first of all, like he wasn't the first kind of filmmaker to do this, and I love it when filmmakers do this this unreliable narrator thing. So like one of my favorite scenes ever was Inception, and it was like at the end of Inception, you're wondering how much of anything is real. But the thing is, like you do have to give something to you do have to give up some things, and you do have to like point your questions very deliberately to like scene specific that you're asking this question to. Otherwise like the movie kind of starts losing its like its
nothing
power.
will make sense if nothing of it is real.
So the way I understood it, there's very clear and defined rules for when he's being an unreliable narrator. I think every single scene that that's very obvious. So we have to work back from the end point and backwards, right? So the most obvious points where he's being an unreliable narrator, there's always the audio always cuts out, and there's always music, and he's always the hero. So those are the rules of 100%.
Like the stand-up,
right? So we can take a step back from there and say, okay, so what other things could not be real but still fits his narrative of what he wants to be real?
Sure, but there's also the argument about the switch in the music, the switch in attitude, the switch in to establish that this is that is not real. We could also argue though that after killing, like let's take that the scene where he goes into that his love interest's apartment played by Zazie Beetz right after he kills the stockbrokers, right? Right after he kills them and he goes to her apartment, like he could just be fucking on adrenaline, just pure confidence, just like, you know,
I think that was real
there,
based on
like
her
smelling
reaction,
like a musky beast.
That wasn't real,
right?
at all.
No, that wasn't real.
No, we're talking about when she was scared,
Completely
right?
wasn't
Oh,
real.
that was
no,
real.
no, no,
Oh,
no,
you're not
no,
talking
no,
about when she was
no,
scared.
no, we're talking about the first Delusion where he knocks on his door and he goes in and he kisses her.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And the indicator for me that was not real was he still had like makeup on his face, and I'd be like, damn, no,
Yeah, he
you
had
have to
blood
wash
on
that
his
off.
face.
I'd be
I
like,
had
can
so
you
many
wash
questions.
that
I
off?
was like, what is wrong with this lady? Why is she
Sure.
going along with this?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I didn't
Like,
know that was
that-
going to happen, that it wasn't going to be real.
At that
You
moment,
never
I thought there
know,
was
though.
going to be something wrong with the lady too. Like
Yeah.
I didn't.
like at that moment, my first thought was she's not real.
Yeah,
I
right?
just thought she
100%.
was also
And
going to
then-
be nuts.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, no, I thought like she wasn't real, and then like I was close. I was like the relationship's not real, but she is real.
Yeah.
And but the thing was like, so sorry, Frank. What was your point about like where the rules kind of lie in regards to what's what's his mind and what's not?
It wasn't about the rules. I was just saying that like if I'm writing that story and I wanted to make that situation happen for real, I could take a situation like what happened with Arthur in the subway killing those 3 guys, and just have him walk out of those subway doors feeling like a goddamn fucking rock star, a pimp, like a godlike figure, right? With a sense of just omnipotence, right? And go to that girl's door, knock on the door, and just have this confidence be physically exuded from him, right? Which is obviously something that plays into male and female attraction, right? So you never know how someone might respond to that, right? Like you see a lot of, you hear a lot of stories about women in high society or women in higher echelons of society being attracted to men in much lower echelons of society because of something violent that they did or something crazy that they did or something risky or along those lines, right?
So I'm definitely attracted to unwarranted confidence, but I mean, if the guy shows up with like blood all over his face,
no, I
I'm
get
still
that
gonna
part.
be
I'm
like,
not
what the fuck?
arguing.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, I'm just saying hypothetically, right? I'm just saying if I wanted to write, I could write that scenario and still justify that happening if I really wanted to. You just have to do it right. But you hit the nail on the head with the makeup. Right?
And not only that, the biggest thing, regardless of I don't really know how much I agree with that part of it, what you said, but the biggest thing for me is that she's a mother.
Right.
And when you're a mom, your child is your number one priority. I really doubt that a mother is going to be acting this way. It was really clear to see.
Yeah, but there's been
forward.
bad moms in cinema forever.
There has been bad moms, but she
wasn't conveyed as
she wasn't conveyed in that light at all.
Sure.
And the fact that she's like, oh, you follow me? You're following me? Oh, that's cool. Like, no, a mother would not.
Yeah, that moment was like
that. No one would think that, especially when he's like, I have a gun, and that's that. Like, as someone who was a mother,
funny though.
I did think that scene.
That was actually
that scene threw me off
moment.
too. Though
That
I
would
was kind of
terrify
like,
me.
why?
Really?
that scene
would
threw me
terrify me.
off.
If a man followed me somewhere,
No,
anywhere, I'd be
I'm not talking
terrified.
about the following. I'm talking about the comment.
His comeback. The thing is, even then, so the reason why that scene felt out of place was because he was answering with such a confidence that he did not have prior, and it was that scene went perfectly to the way it was very fantastical. It was actually like a male fantasy perfect scene for him, and that was it was really cool that it was it left you with some doubt, but obviously if you're more discerning, you'd probably realize that she's not real, the situation's not real. But I love this question.
Well, I was just starting to think that she's also not stable. That's what my line of reason.
Yeah.
I was gonna go okay,
Yeah.
maybe she's gonna have something too.
Exactly.
Which I think I might have liked better. I think I might have liked it if these kind of things
for me, I love the unstable narrator for sure.
Yeah, I love that she wasn't real.
Yeah,
or that at least the moments.
Well,
weren't real.
the interactions of them weren't real.
I think I wanted him to have interactions with a real person, because I think for me that's one of the things that was missing. I just feel like there's other characters around him, and especially the mother character, she informed his instability so much. Yet I just feel like her character wasn't. I feel like more could have been done with her character to kind of bring that forward more, or her involvement with his instability more.
Well, she was, she saw him as a caretaker, right? Like
I felt her character was really weak and passive, considering that she
emasculated him.
She basically caused all of this to happen. I just feel like she could have been a little bit stronger of a character.
Her actions are the jump off point for his life going down the toilet, right?
So like 100%. Technically she's the supporting actress. So I would have just liked to see that happen a little bit more.
Yeah, she's definitely the number one source. The number one influencer for his life.
Yeah.
Number two probably being like Robert De Niro's character.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent like Thomas Wayne's character after like he was kind of fed this like half truth from his mother. But like let's speak about the mother for a second. I actually kind of like that she was a little bit like passive, because like manipulative mothers don't tend to be very strong-willed. They tend to be like the like this very like
they're the victim.
Like it kind of makes Arthur Fleck's type characters it would make it impossible for his head to like see her as someone capable of doing this, because she stays so like
because she's so vulnerable too, right?
Because
her vulnerability,
all the time. She's the victim. He has to take care of her. He has to help her take a bath. He puts like make sure she's taking her medication. Like he creates this, and in a way, I think Arthur Fleck needs her, because it creates like there's one person in this world that needs me to do something for them, because other than that, he really doesn't have anything. So I think. They've, like someone mentioned before, it's like this codependent situation that is getting sort of worse and worse, especially when you see like where this sort of started from.
It's getting more and more perverse, for sure.
Because the mother in Arrested Development is manipulative, but it's kind of fun because she's so powerful about it, and she has so much presence. And same thing with the grandmother from Gilmore Girls. So like, then, I don't know, I just would have liked to see the mother character have more presence, I guess. Like
the moment I think that set the tone for the film for me, and I want to hear you guys' feedback on this, is when Arthur's on the bus and he's making faces at that little kid, right? Making him laugh. And then you see the mother of this kid turn around. I was not expecting this. I was like, will you stop messing with my kid?
Yeah, I like that.
Like just crushing this moment where he's actually enjoying himself, right?
But it was so real. That's what would happen in real life if you were like making faces
depending
at
on the
kid.
mom.
Yeah.
Depending on the mom, right? But
if she got a creepy vibe from you, then that's the reaction you would get.
Sure, but I think that this scene set the tone for the entire film, which is basically like nobody is going to be nice to this guy.
I just have to say, like, my dad does that. We go to Disney. He like talks to other people's kids, but it's purely because like he thinks they're cute or something. And I'm like, Dad, don't do that. But they never think my dad's creepy. They always end up just like having a conversation with my dad.
I think, I don't know. It can, because depending on the situation, it could be seen as weird or not weird.
Yeah.
Arthur Fleck kind of has this weird look to him.
Yeah.
That scene was really heartbreaking because I knew he was just trying to reach out.
Yeah.
And that was like a heartbreaking
he actually
scene.
had no like malintent. Right?
No, he was literally just trying to like reach out and make this kid smile.
Right.
And I think you're right. It is a representation of what like he's sort of going through. It's like he, in his mind at least, he feels like he's trying to reach out in whatever ways, whether they are right or wrong.
Yeah.
But he feels like this is what he's getting back. It's just this like, unwarranted hate or anger or whatever. And so that kind of brings us along to him purchasing that gun eventually.
That scene made me anxious for him. That scene made me anxious for him too, because I feel like when stuff like that happens, then you're like constantly questioning everything that you do, and like, oh, am I acting right or wrong? And like, I don't know, I get anxious in those kind of situations too. If someone just like snaps at me for something that I thought was normal and then it wasn't. So like from that moment on throughout the movie, I had like so much anxiety for the character. So
did you guys feel like he was genuinely pleasant up until about that breaking point? Like,
yeah, I felt like he was trying.
I don't know how pleasant I thought he was. I think he was still like
I thought his intentions were good. Obviously, he's not all there, right? He has some mental health issues. So I think that he doesn't really identify some of the things he's doing as inappropriate as we would, right?
Yeah.
Like following that woman around.
That is like terrifying.
Yeah.
That scared me so much.
Yeah.
He should have known that was, I don't know. Yeah. That was like, I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
But I will give you this, that's sort of society. And you could kind of see here, like the government sort of failed him 100%.
Yeah.
Which they fail a lot of people in the system.
Yeah.
Which is like, he needs this help and they're taking money away from these places where this could be like the only thing that he has that can give him help, and he doesn't have money for the medication he needs or to go see this person.
Right.
And so that is like I think a really important factor in this thing, how like sort of are these things that are put in place that are meant to help us are essentially like not there anymore. And I think it sort of shows like how important mental health work is and how important that care is and how it should be available to people when they need it.
Readily
but
available.
I think that scene
yeah.
was important because it had to show us how obsessed with her that he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He got really obsessed with her because she maybe smiled at him in the elevator. We know that the hand gesture wasn't real, but like maybe she somehow interacted with him in the elevator.
I think the whole thing was delusional. He interpreted a very benign interaction as something more. And I think that's something that we regularly see in terms of when we hear stories about, men with mental health issues that end up having problems stalking women or harassing women. It's like, it's a misread situation, right? They just don't have the social skills to really break down and unpack exactly what really took place, right? They kind of make it up in their own heads. Okay, so let's move on a bit. I want to talk about Bruce Wayne, or I want to talk about the Wayne family in this movie. And the reason I want to talk about the Wayne family is because this was a giant misdirect, brilliantly done by Phillips. And Chris, when you saw Wayne getting connected to this story, and you're like, oh my God, are they gonna make the Joker and the Batman half brothers?
Yeah.
Did you say that to yourself?
Yeah, I did. And to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of like the Wayne, like all of the Wayne side except for Thomas Wayne. I thought Thomas Wayne was very essential to the story.
Yeah.
But I think like, okay, so my entire thing is I was sitting through this and they were like, okay, so they're not gonna do a Batman thing. They're gonna it's a departure for sure. And then so I'm like, okay, so as long as I take this assumption in my back pocket, I'm fine for this movie. And then they went ahead and did Murder Alley or whatever the fuck it's called when Bruce Wayne's entire family dies. It's like, I don't understand. Like, are you trying to pull me into the Batman universe with this Joker, or are you trying to make a departure? Because if you're pulling me in, I don't like this Joker. I like this Joker if this has nothing to do with Batman. Well, right. So I was like, it was very confusing for me.
Yeah. Well, Todd Phillips said, because they asked him, like, oh, are you going to do a sequel with Batman? If you do a sequel, he's like, if I do a sequel, there will be no Batman in it. He's like, I'm not really, like, it was sort of like a tie-in to the world. He's like, I am not, and this is something that he said that I like, where he says he's pulling from The Killing Joke. Joker said, like, my history is like his backstory is multiple choice. So the way that I kind of think of this is like one of the multiple choices that he's just made up in his head. That's how I started viewing it. That this is like one of the random backstories he made that brought him to be a Joker. It doesn't necessarily have to be the right one, but it is a multiple choice of what he could be. And in this version, he made himself the aggressor that created Batman, sort of in that sense,
right? Instead
of like the other way around. If he even is like the Joker that we even know, like we don't really know that either. Like he's something else, but that's kind of how that's kind of how I'm starting to see it more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. That's the thing. It's like when you said, oh, this is like this, from what it sounds to me, is like it's an offshoot of what the Joker can be, right? And it's like, I'm willing to detach this Joker, because for me, Joker, like I love Joker a lot. And it's like, I like Joker as a character a lot. And it's like, this movie wasn't the Joker that I liked, for sure. But the thing is, like, I like the character anyways. I like Arthur Fleck. But like, my thought was we weren't supposed to compare this to other Jokers, because this isn't the Joker from the comic books. But then there were so many comic book moments where I was just like, okay, so you're forcing me to. Okay, so can we talk about the laugh for a second?
Sure.
So the laugh. This is like, generally, like, this is my main problem with the movie. So I did have some problems with the movie. I liked most of it. I think the performance is really well, but I thought almost everything was sacrificed for the performance. And I think like in certain places it's good. It's probably really good, right? But the thing is, like when you sacrifice things, like, so for example, the laugh. So the laugh was good. It was really good. It was very bone chilling, right? But the thing is, when the Joker laughs, it's supposed to chill your bones, because he's finding complete enjoyment in this, in whatever he's doing, and it's this very like maniacal thing. And now you took the agency of him laughing away. So now you made it like compulsory. Like he doesn't have a choice. Like he laughs because of a condition.
Yeah.
Which gives you a really, really amazing scenes with him being sad while laughing, which is like amazing to look at, right? But you took away from his character, because now he's not laughing because he's happy that he's shooting your family in front of you. Like, he's just laughing because it's a mental condition. So do you see what I'm trying to say? Like, it's taking away from his character, which I'd be one last thing. So which I'd be okay with if you didn't try to push this whole Batman thing in front of me, which makes me like think that he's actually a Joker, that a Batman would exist.
I have to agree. I kind of groaned when Bruce Wayne showed up. I was like, why? Like, we know this is a separate thing. Why are you bringing Bruce into this? Like,
yeah, it was a little heavy, but like just going back to what Chris said for a quick second, I think that's the demarcation line, right? I think that attributing his laugh to a condition, making it a result of a condition, a mental condition, is what grounded this movie in reality, right? And what made the message so much more powerful, right? When you show me a movie with, like, let's say two different Jokers, right? Let's say Heath Ledger's Joker and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Heath Ledger's Joker is a lot more cartoonish, right? In his behavior and his attitude, his motivations are real, but they're more motivated by they're not necessarily motivated by the way that you witness society treat him, right? This Joker's motivation is completely motivated by the actions of society around him, right? Because he even keeps telling you, like he said, why did you kill these stockbrokers? Because they were awful people, right? And why did he let the little short guy go out of the apartment, right?
Yeah. He liked him.
Because he liked him, right? And because he was nice to him. So I think that the message in this movie quickly becomes more about how we treat others in society than necessarily being, about evil. There's really no evil in this movie. Well, if you really look at it, you can't really sit there and go, okay, this guy is like a diabolical mind.
Yeah,
I don't think he's a diabolical.
I think I get what you're saying. Like, his evil is a reactionary evil, and it's not.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
but the thing is, like if you're talking about demarcation, I think the laugh was the wrong place to do it. Like, right away, as soon as you dive into Joker's backstory, you've already set him apart from other Jokers, because the entire point of Joker is he's so enigmatic that nobody knows anything about him. So as soon as you dive into it, he's already different from all the other Jokers.
Yeah, but I think that was Phillips' intention. I think that that his mission to ground this in some sense of reality was so important. And like I said, my theory is that this was a story that he wanted to get across to people. Sorry, this was a message that he wanted to get across to people in our society, in today's society, because the way that society is right now.
But I agree with
Chris.
And
he used Joker as a vehicle.
I would have liked to see the laugh develop as his psychosis increased. I would have liked to see that happen rather than it just like having been a pre-existing condition.
But that's more comic book than anything, right?
Not really. Not necessarily.
I don't know.
Well, I feel like mental health does work that way. Like the further you break down, the more
it should have been correlated.
Your behavior becomes.
See, it should have been correlated to his descent into evil. Exactly. Then it is just like a condition, because
but not a descent into evil, just a descent into the abnormal.
His fault. Yeah, to the abnormal. Yeah, sure. So it's like it's him. Like, I'd be okay with him being triggered by something it shouldn't be triggered, but because it's just kind of like randomly triggered, it's like sometimes it's anxiety, sometimes it's just fright, sometimes
I felt
whatever.
like it's what you said. They did it just so that they could do weird scenes at the very beginning of the movie.
To be fair, I love those scenes, right? It's just now
it felt shallow.
Yeah, it felt shallow. Yeah. It's like I love those scenes, but now don't now giving you that, don't also make me compare it to a universe where Batman exists in, because they did that, right? Like,
but for me, that would be more real. Like, if his like increasing tics increased with his deteriorating mental state, that would have been more real to me, rather than his character just being like super interesting right from the beginning for no reason.
But it's not just his mental health that's driving this guy, right? Yeah, he's got mental issues, but he has mental issues at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to kill anybody.
Okay, for me, it's like the exact kind of opposite of what you guys are saying. Okay. It's not him like delving into insanity and it getting more apparent. For me, it was
I don't
as
think
he
it's
became
insanity.
or delving into whatever he is, whatever he is going into. For me, it's the opposite. As he sort of dives deeper into that, he starts losing it. And I think the only genuine laugh, and this is something that Todd Phillips ended up saying, was the only genuine laugh we ever really saw of him was at the very ending when he was talking to that woman in whatever he was in the ward that he was in, and he started laughing. And she said, what was like so funny? And he said, you wouldn't understand or something like that, or you wouldn't get it.
Laugh,
And that was like the one real genuine laugh that he actually had throughout the whole movie. And I think that sort of, I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of the laughter. I wasn't, because I thought sometimes they used it because it would help them and other times they didn't because it wouldn't help them.
Yeah.
I definitely felt that. But I think if you see it that way, as he sort of starts assuming this character more, he starts losing it. And then he finds this genuine laugh, however wrong it might be.
So I was gonna bring that up because I do like that last laugh he has in the end, where it's it's one genuine laugh. But I felt like there was a disconnect. There was like this pre-existing condition, nothing in the middle, and then this last laugh. And like I felt like they could have led up to that, where it's like it was way more symbolic to his character that he was finally overcoming this so it was compulsory, right? Like he couldn't help it. If he starts controlling his laugh and knowing what the triggers are somewhere in there,
I don't know if it's
I would have
knowing
loved
what
it.
the triggers are.
Yeah, I would have loved that better
because
too.
As someone, like, if you get like a panic attack or something else, like you don't really know what the trigger is. Like it just kind of like happens. But as you sort of start delving into psychosis of what's going on with you, you tend to have them less and less and less, just because you're sort of getting to this place.
Sure.
But doesn't he even say to his mom in the hospital? Doesn't he even say that, Mom, you thought my you thought my laugh or something about his laugh was part of his condition, but it wasn't.
Yeah, like he wasn't even sure if it was true that it was a condition.
Right? Like
it might have just been something she told him.
Right. So
he never got.
So the laugh
a
at the
doctor
end.
never told him that.
The laugh at the end, I think, is to solidify that he's been hiding his true self this entire time, right? Put on a happy face, his mother used to tell him all the time, was just a fucking mask, right? He's always been this way. This is the real him. Right. So, I think this is that last scene is him finally embracing his real self.
I would love that if it came across more.
It did.
Obviously.
It definitely did come across.
It just seems like he had depression and he wasn't getting the help he needed. Like,
well,
I mean, that's the thing. He wasn't getting the help he needed for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the message, right?
He wasn't taking his medications consistently.
Is like he's not cruel, right? He's not killing out of cruelty. He's not killing because well, I don't know.
really know about that. There's
some gray areas. There's a lot of gray areas in this, right? Like
I think the first killing might not have been out of cruelty.
That was out of self-defense.
But then he chased that guy out.
Sort of, but then he found that he enjoyed it. That was the part where he became a villain, right? Where he was like, I like this. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
He didn't see anything wrong with what he did.
Sure, but if he was a homicidal maniac, there's no way he's letting that little guy out of the room.
The only reason he became homicidal maniac was because...
But he's not a homicidal maniac.
But it was basically like because all the people loved what he did. So he got fans for what he did, and I think that's what made him become maniacal about it.
He only killed the people who either took advantage of him, right?
Yeah.
Or like made fun of him.
But I mean, he didn't feel bad for what happened on the subway, and then he felt even less bad when he realized he had all these followers and people were
because he felt like those people were fucking awful. Like there's a part.
But he felt that his own fan club, like his own fans, he felt connected to.
No,
those
I know,
people.
but we're talking about the subway. You just mentioned the subway, right? He killed those people because he literally. So when he's laughing in the subway and they come over, the first thing he says to him, he goes, "I have a condition." He says directly to them, and they ignored that, and then they continue to beat on him.
Yeah, that's what I get that. I get that. But what I'm saying is he didn't feel bad about killing them because he started to
because of what they did to him.
Well,
but also because he got fans out of it. So it's kind of like a form of validation.
You're pretty much both right. Like right away he didn't feel bad because those guys were awful. But then like the entire time after that, like he started getting like adoration and like,
so it's like getting a bunch of likes on Instagram or something, like having this fan club.
Sure, he got adoration for it. Yes, 100%.
It made him feel validated in a way.
But like I said, I think that his like he wasn't trying to just be a homicidal, cruel maniac. He wasn't killing for the sport.
I don't think at the beginning, I don't think that was what it is. I still don't really think it is what it is. But you have to admit that as he's progressing through this movie, like, if you kill somebody, if let's say one of us in this room has, I don't know why.
Why did you look at me immediately?
What the fuck just happened?
She just looks right
What the hell just happened
I don't know
here?
what you guys. What secret you guys are hiding?
Let me. Where was I? Anyway, so let's say that happened.
I got no bodies. What the hell?
So let's say.
That's because
Okay,
who's your
someone
disposal
Chris
guy?
buried someone somewhere.
Okay, and just say you know that experience, guys.
Wow.
What happens is that there's still a guilt that you should feel, but he's
Of course,
kind of
you should feel some remorse.
But he doesn't feel anything, and so you can kind of see, or we don't really see him feel in the
Right.
way we
Also,
understand
if it
we
was-
should.
Right.
If it was self-defense,
And that's because of the mental health aspect, right?
That, and then also, and this is where I'm getting maybe.
And he went off his meds. Let's establish
Yeah.
that.
But
He
also,
said-
if it was
100%.
self-defense, he wouldn't be trying to find other people to kill. That's not.
But what do you mean? He wasn't trying to find any other people to kill.
He plotted to go kill the guy who made fun of him on the television.
Robert De Niro.
That
Right.
wasn't self-defense.
Right. No, that wasn't
That was
self-defense.
premeditated.
But in his mind, he had a justifiable reason to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My point is, it wasn't like I'm a spree killer, right?
No, but
Okay.
it
Okay.
became justifiable because of the validation he got from his fans.
Okay, no. So you guys have a disconnect. So
Yeah.
Frank is saying because he has a motive, he's not maniacal.
Okay.
But the thing is, but she's saying like you're still fucking crazy even though you have a reason to kill people.
We know he's crazy. That's been established.
No, my point was it wasn't just out of self-defense. He wasn't just
Yeah.
killing out of
It
No,
wasn't
self-defense.
all
I get
out of
that.
self-defense.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not even saying killing somebody in self-defense is justified. Okay, like especially not in that scenario when you're in a fist fight. That is not cool. That's not a justifiable
Yeah, you don't
fucking thing.
escalate it from a fist fight
Right?
to.
Right?
Well, I don't know. They did have
the
they
whole
did
stand your
have
ground
him-
thing in Florida is bullshit. It's complete bullshit. So
Well, if people are kicking your ribs and head in at that point, like I think you're allowed to use a little bit more force. You could throw something at them, a chair or
sure,
something.
okay, we're not going to get into the semantics of
Yeah.
of self-defense, but my point is that he had a motivation in his mind that made sense to him, right?
Yeah, it made sense to him for sure.
But he didn't kill anybody else on that stage, right?
No, he didn't. He did. He just killed.
So he's
you know,
not like
Yeah,
he's not
he's
a
got a
homicidal
motive,
maniac
yeah.
at this point, right?
Yeah.
He's definitely going down that fucking road, 100%.
And
And
going
then we
after
see,
certain
yeah.
people.
And then we do
Right.
see the scene at the end where, like, you know, he's chasing after, and he's like obviously killed someone in that.
And he
So
finds-
it-
Yeah, he-
Sorry. Before
Yeah.
you do that point, because it's a completely different point. This is like I don't agree one way or the other, but like, like a homicidal maniac, your ideal homicidal maniac could have a motive to him.
I don't have an ideal
No,
homicidal
but you're
maniac.
saying, but you're saying he's not one because he's got a motive for killing people.
Yeah,
a homicidal
I know.
maniac has a motive for killing people.
Exactly.
It's unknown to you. That's why it's a
Exactly.
homicidal maniac to you, right? But
After
okay,
they interview
let me
murderers,
change-
the
let me
murderers always
change my-
justified in their mind.
Let me change the word that I spoke or used, okay? So
He's
spree
not a-
killer. He's not
okay,
a spree
yeah.
killer,
but
okay?
yeah,
Okay?
yeah. He's
So-
not.
so-
he's not. And
so-
he shouldn't be because it'd be a boring movie
So-
if it was.
So what I'm saying is, okay, so Joker in our context that we understand him,
Yeah.
right? Joker is definitely somebody in his history that has killed mass amounts of people in one shot.
But
right?
it's never
Bombs,
without reason.
Everything, right? No, but no. Well, does I wouldn't say that he has great reason in doing it. If anything, he's doing it because he's fucking crazy, and it's gonna piss off
Well,
Batman,
also-
and it's chaos, right?
Right. Okay.
And it's gonna keep Batman coming after him.
But it's
right?
not okay. But chaos is not the same thing as random. So chaos to him is his motive, right?
No, I know
Random
that
is-
anarchy.
okay,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. But what I'm saying is, like, in his head, he's justified. Okay, listen, we can go back and forth
Yeah,
about
this
this
is-
shit for a fucking million years.
I want to go back to the scene though near the end, and this
Sure.
is where I'm going to get to my full theory. And
Sure.
what
You
I
guys
wanted
can
to
tell
talk
me
about,
after.
kind of leading to the ending scene of what is real, what is not real.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
see a lot of moments in this movie that really don't connect, and it doesn't make sense. A really poignant one, sort of, is when he empties out the fridge and goes into it, and the next day it's all fine.
Oh, I know this theory.
Right?
Goddamn.
Well, I don't know. It could be a different theory.
go,
This
go,
is just
go.
like my interpretation of like what has happened. It's like after that, is that real? Was he found dead? Is he alive or whatnot? And I'll go back to my original theory when he is sitting in the room. And then again, I don't know if I believe this theory, but I thought it was interesting, which is why I brought it up. And he's talking to this nurse at the end. He is sort of making the story connect as it goes on, you know? So some moments, like we said, are real, some are not real. But one thing is that he might not be the Joker that we know, but there was a theory out there that there's like someone out there that has been inspired by this act that ends up becoming that sort of Joker. You know what I mean? And the Joker that Batman actually does end up going against. It's from these like riots he gets inspired and making Arthur Fleck sort of like an inspiration. That was like a theory that was out
Well, with
there.
your multiple choice Joker origin story, that that could be a possibility.
Yeah, and so I don't know what you guys thought of the fridge scene in particular, and if you thought that was like very odd.
I thought it was the creepiest fucking part of the movie.
Him
to be
crawling
honest,
into the fridge.
I thought it was the creepiest part of the movie.
What do you think? Like, do you think
who would like who does that?
I wondered if he was trying to kill himself.
I thought so, and honestly, there's a part of me that thinks that he died in there, and then
remind me, that's right after he killed his mom, right?
Yeah,
it's about after he killed his mom, right? He comes back to the apartment.
No. It's after he comes back from Arkham Asylum and finds out that he is adopted, and he's been beaten, and I think it's the head injury and all that shit.
I think it's this weird attempt to it's a symbolism for a chrysalis, and now he's fully transitioned into a butterfly.
That's what a lot of people have said. That's what a lot of people have said.
Or a lot of people have said quite I don't want to say stupidly, because people have like theories that are awesome, is that he dies in there and the rest of it.
Yeah.
And the rest of the movie is
dies
inside
in
his
there.
head.
But I think that kind of shows the fact that he is an unreliable narrator, because then it just jumps to the next day. Like, and I don't even think the kitchen was messy after that.
It's good that you
So I just Googled
really got me.
I just Googled fridge suicide, and apparently it is a way that people do try to kill themselves.
Yeah, but that fridge he could get out of.
You can suffocate.
That fridge he could get out of. Like he had to close it twice to get it to close.
Yeah.
So I started a theory.
Not all suicide attempts are successful.
I know that.
Yeah. So anyways, so I started a point earlier in this episode about like him being an unreliable narrator, and the second half of that is I was like saying what I think, my opinion of, like, because we could just say, oh, what's real? Like, nothing's real. Like, this is the risk that unreliable narrator stories kind of run. Mm-hmm. So you do have to give a little bit like to the narration, and give them a few constants, and the rest of them can be variable. So the only variable we know is the very obvious scenes that aren't real, which is like when the music is playing, and when everything goes right for him. So pretty much every time that everything goes right for him, and the audio cuts out and the music plays.
Yeah, so pretty much every time he was on a date.
It's definitely it's definitely like not real, right? So I think the whole scene where he crashes. So like before I get to that, so you could say that scenes here and there that don't follow that rule could be an exception to that rule, because it's fun to think about it like that, right? So I think so. This is one of those scenes. And remind me, because you've seen it twice, but the scene where the car crashes into his cop car, and they pull him out, and he gets up and starts dancing in front of people. I think that's not real.
Oh, you mean the ambulance that crashed into the cop car and and then his followers pulled him out?
Two car accidents that day, that guy, man.
Yeah.
So like, I think that scene's not real. Like, his whole adoration. I mean, I could also lean the other way.
You feel like maybe it's like the Batman scene in BVS when he's in the cave and when he's a kid and he's floating up.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, he was completely adored by people, which is a good ending if it really happened. But I also think that it's possible that, like, because that scene went perfectly for him. Like, he was adored by his people, and there was music playing, and he was like jumping up on the
he was lying on the hood of the car for a while.
Yeah, he was.
But the only thing that does get me is that, like, there were cutaways to a different scene. Which you can't feasibly say that it's like part of a, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a hard one to kind of like.
Unless he fantasizes about Thomas Wayne dying too, that'd be pretty.
Like this movie is a total mindfuck, without a doubt. Like, there's a lot of mindfuckery in this film, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Thomas Wayne a little bit too, because I feel he plays an important role in this film. If that guy had chosen a better method of response to Arthur in that bathroom, other than punching him in the fucking face and like kind of addressing him the way that he addressed him.
I think he punched him because he touched his kid.
Yeah.
That's all that he cared about.
No,
and then he followed him. First you touched my kid and now you followed me. Like, fuck you.
No, he's not unjustified. He's not unjustified.
But clearly Thomas Wayne understands that this guy has mental health problems, right? Because Thomas Wayne knows his mother, right? And he probably understands from some of the letters that his mother's been sending him that Arthur has problems himself, right? So he could have managed that situation a lot better just by giving the fucking guy a hug and trying to provide him with a little bit of support.
Yeah, but I think Thomas Wayne's character is not supposed to have empathy.
No, I know, and that's what and that's one of the things I hated about this movie was because Thomas Wayne is a character that will go down in DC history as one of the more prominent father figures across the board, right? You have Pa Kent and you have fucking Thomas Wayne, right? And Thomas Wayne has always been
and Joe West.
Well, I think that was the whole point too, to show that like it's really easy to bring these people to a better place. Like all you have to do is show a little bit of empathy, address them like a person, hear them out a little.
I think that is the message.
Yeah,
I really do.
And the message is that we shut them out. We don't try to hear them out. We assume that they're crazy and we act like they're crazy. And we get defensive, and so, that is the message.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. It was conveyed properly with that scene and like almost every other scene. But I think like I do think that Thomas Wayne and most of the other supporting characters kind of just straw man for him all the time. Like they just like, so Thomas Wayne being like a complete dickbag. Obviously, like him punching him in the bathroom was completely justified. Like the dude like trespassed and touched like choked your butler and touched your son and stuff like that. But the thing was like him having a misunderstanding with the poor people of Gotham, that was a complete like straw man.
Because he was a device, yeah.
Like, and I just think that most supporting characters in this movie were like devices for him.
Yeah, that's what they were.
There was a lot of sacrifice.
There
was a lot of sacrifice for his performance.
I think for Thomas in particular, though, I was trying to think of it as like from the eyes of someone who like lives in Gotham, who's really poor. You could like, it was kind of easier to sort of understand that character arc, like not thinking of the Thomas Wayne that we know, only because it's like it's very easy to imagine a politician coming, being like, I can help you all, and be like, what do you know? You're this rich guy who lives in this mansion in a guarded community, right? So I kind of saw it from that point of view. I don't know if I didn't think he was like a complete dick, but I was like, oh, he's just like a politician that you see.
I actually felt that the game show host was kind of like the other father figure, was the most...
talk show host?
He was.
The talk show host, sorry.
It was one of three
was the
things
most
that
dynamic supporting character. And I think like in some way he wasn't just making fun of him. Like, yes, he made fun of him, but I do think that he brought him onto the show and he was interviewing him like it was a real interview.
It was a lot though, the making fun of, to the point where I'm like, this maybe, I don't know, maybe in the 80s that would fly if that was the 80s, but like just this constant mocking of him. And then
comedians need to be able to like make fun of each, like,
but
as a comedian,
because when he came on the show, it seemed okay, it seemed jovial, like it didn't seem...
But you could clearly tell that this guy was like mentally unwell. And if like today you were to watch a video on like Jimmy Kimmel or something else, and there was someone who was clearly mentally unwell,
is it clearly though?
He is so clearly
Mark Maron's character thought he was
not to Murray Franklin.
But it was to like Matt.
So Mark Maron's character didn't even want to let him up on the stage, because and he was like, "Look what he's dressing up as. You're gonna let him get out there like this?"
But that wasn't because he was mentally unwell.
Because he looked like the guys outside.
Yeah, because he looked like the rioters.
Which Mark Maron thought was like a little crazy. Like, don't you know what just happened? Why would you do this?
As someone like who like I don't know, as someone
he was scared of like the political like PR backlash.
I've worked with kids with like special needs before, and to me it was like very clear that he had like symptoms. It just was like you could very very much tell right off the bat. I don't know, like just from the look of it. So just to see someone who's trying their best, and like maybe this is just me, like I don't think that is funny at all. Like I don't understand anyone who would laugh at that. So for me, that playing, he's like, well, let's play it one more time because it was that funny. I was like, is it that funny?
No, it's not funny.
But I feel like
and that's the point. And that's the
things
point.
weren't as PC back then, and they didn't use as much discretion or have as much empathy about what went on.
I think
TV.
that they're trying to comment in society by using that character and say that this is how we function in today's society right now. When somebody does something,
but it's not today's society.
Yeah, we do. Today's society.
But the movie takes place.
But the movie reflects on today's society.
Okay.
So this is how we function, is that when somebody does something, whether we know whether it's whether they're mentally unwell or they're not, we're always there to make that fucking quick laugh. We're always there to respond on Twitter.
So I get that. Right? I understand that aspect completely. But this is what made me think more of the terms of like what is real or not real with this movie.
Okay.
Because that just seemed like a little much for me. And then that whole ending scene when he's talking to Robert De Niro's character and he's like, I killed these people. And like, no one's calling the cops. Everyone is just like, he's like just trying to talk it out. And like, you're talking to a killer, like someone who has admitted to killing. And so that scene was also played kind of weird for me because he's just like having a conversation with a guy who literally just admitted to 3 murders. There's a whole live studio audience. Do you think security would be there?
I'm sure they were.
I feel like they did call the police, but you're right. It's like they would have cut it off. There's no way.
No, they wouldn't have. That's not how TV works. Are you kidding me? That's gold.
That's
like if somebody admits
that's
like
gold.
to killing somebody, that's gold. You run with that shit.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
I think for live TV, possibly. I think that like when the person gets shot, then like you cut it. Like they
cut it. They tried to. They ran away.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you be afraid that it would escalate into something that, like, as a security person, I'd be concerned if somebody's
that was
like,
no.
Well, the thing is, like, as Robert De Niro, he felt completely safe. It was his show.
And everybody got shot.
Yeah, I know he was wrong. He was wrong. But as Robert De Niro, just like what you were saying, he had information that he shouldn't have. So you're saying that, like, oh, it's not fun to make fun of the mentally unstable. Robert De Niro didn't know that. Like, he saw a stand-up comedian laughing on stage. He didn't have that card that he hands out to people.
Yeah, plus there's sorry, Chris, just want to add to your point. There's been comedians who kind of use very weird kind of approaches or techniques or styles to kind of tell their jokes, right? He could have just thought he was doing that.
Yeah, because the interview didn't feel like he was making fun of him. In the interview, it felt like he was.
No, he definitely was making fun of him.
He was, but I don't know. It felt like almost like he was having a bit of respect for him.
No,
like
in
while
the interview,
they were
it felt like he was
each
talking
other.
down to him. Like even when he sat down, he's like, "Are you ready?" Like whatever,
Yeah,
like talking. And even that made me think, like, okay, well, he knows that he's not. Because if he was. He knows there's some part of him that is not there because he feels like he can do that because he's talking to him how you would maybe talk to like a child and when you talk
he was
them,
the punchline. Yeah, he wasn't a guest he was a guest that like.
And my more point about that scene was that scene just I don't know for me like the over and over again in the whole interview that was the scene where I started also questioning the validity of what was happening and what wasn't. I do think he did kill that guy. I do think that happened.
I think that whole scene was real.
But it was just like had me questioning because of the way it was playing out.
Okay.
So like this is where I think like the unstable narrator tool kind of backfires in these movies because if any part of that scene, even the dressing room scene wasn't real, it takes away from the climax of the movie. So I think like questioning like the climax movies, the climax points of the movies, I don't think we should question those parts because it kind of takes away from like I don't know. We should just give it as a given that it actually happened because if any of if even a single part of that scene, that sequence wasn't real, it kind of takes away from his.
And that part I get, right? But it's just the feeling it gave me.
Yeah, for sure.
It just like gave me this.
And they want you to ask that question for sure, whether or not it's real. Sorry, can we talk about the stand up the bombing scene?
For sure, yeah.
So I think like that scene really made me the stand up bomb. Like it really made me uncomfortable in a really great way. And I think that like this is where this movie could have been like in my opinion could have been better here and there. So that scene in particular and scenes like this made me feel so uncomfortable for him.
Yeah.
This is the scene where it really pulled me into that
like
stage
really
with
a lot
him.
of empathy.
Right? And it's just like but the thing was like my opinion was like they cut it way too short. He entered his like like I get it, like he would enter his delusion of like grandeur or whatever like at that moment for him. And I think they should have kept us away from that for a little bit longer.
Oh, just let us sit in the
because
longer.
like I was sitting there and I couldn't look up and I was like, this is a really good emotion that they're like hitting home. And then they cut to his delusional world where the girl was laughing and stuff. And I felt like it was off and it was like, I don't know, like this is where I think the movie could have improved a little bit. It's like
because if you've ever seen a comedian bomb in real life, it is really
it's horrible. And
yeah,
it's like,
but some comedians do that on purpose, and some people don't even
some
understand.
are just new and they just don't know how to handle the
Most
audience or the
are,
crowd, or like
well,
they're too anxious.
You'll bomb 100, like
they're too anxious to
100%.
continue their bit.
Yeah, but
I go to a lot of amateur comedy shows. So I've seen it happen.
but awkward comedy is an actual like it's
it
an actual style of comedy.
I'm
now,
talking
right?
about going to like an underground comedy bar where you pay like $5 to see a bunch of new comedians.
Oh my god!
Like...
So we used to go to Vapor Lounges before, and they used to have like stand up nights,
nice.
And everybody has it. Oh, it's terrible. I feel so bad for this, but everybody has an unspoken rule that we don't laugh at stand-up comedians there. And I'm like, guys, why? And they're like, no, man, nobody laughs.
Actually,
it's so bad,
I've heard
guys.
comedians
That's
say
kinda
this
brutal.
about
so
rooms
bad.
where everyboug's high. That like sometimes nobody laughs.
Nobody
at their
laughs
jokes.
at them. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I want to talk about too is, so when we see Arthur in the dressing room at the Murray Franklin show and he's getting ready to go on, he's done all his makeup, he's done his dance down the stairs. By the way, that scene was fucking awesome.
That was a good scene.
Yeah.
That scene was great.
The only time we saw the stairs in daylight, I noticed. All the other times it was all night.
Yeah.
I love that scene because it was like kind of showing Tobey Maguire, this is how it's done in a movie. This like unwarranted dance scene. This is the only way to do it. Anyways, continue.
I like how they ended that scene too with like they didn't just give him, the clear path down the steps and to go to the show and do his thing. The cops show up right behind him as he's dancing on the steps. And they witness it, and I'm sure they're going, "What the fuck is this guy doing?"
Yeah, I love that.
Clearly, this guy's our suspect.
The cops are kind of looking at each other and just like,
clearly, this guy's our suspect.
Yeah.
He's in fucking full Joker makeup, and he's dancing down the stairs, and nobody's around him. So, anyways, I really like that.
And then they interrupt his dance. He's like in his own world, and they're like, "Yo, freeze!"
Oh, by the way, like to that point, like I think one of the greatest strengths of this movie was its soundtrack. Like it really like. If you notice, like a lot of its soundtrack was like really overbearing at times, where he was like completely like that scene where he was like completely in control. It was very overbearing. And then when he's going through turmoil and when he's like laughing and stuff, it's very low and very undercutting.
I think it's what you said though. It's definitely a device to help the audience figure out like.
There was
it always
the music.
Is.
The music was an emotional.
But I love that it was very like
emotional
low,
roadmap.
It was very low and undercutting when he's like in moments of turmoil.
Yeah.
But really like loud and overbearing when he's like. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, it was great, dude. So the other thing I want to talk about is we see Arthur in the green room getting ready to go on the show, and he's got that gun and he's, telling his jokes. He's kind of telling them to himself, and then he puts the gun under his chin, and he pulls the trigger, right? So here's my question: did he go on the Murray Franklin show to kill himself in front of a bunch of people, then Murray Franklin pissed him off so much that he killed Murray Franklin? Because that's exactly what I think happened.
Oh,
yeah. Like
I don't think so. Though.
That wasn't the
first
scene.
Premeditated.
It's not the first.
It's premeditated, but it's premeditated murder-suicide.
No,
in my opinion.
Yeah,
because that wasn't the first time he did it.
Exactly.
Like he was rehearsing even in his own house. Yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely. I think the only reason why he didn't kill himself is because he was getting a lot of adoration from people.
That's what I think.
Right? Like because he started getting grounded. Like so I've always found that it was a very big disconnect from the people that he kind of spurred on to kind of like take this rich poor this
divide between
thing.
The class.
So I didn't like that at all. I felt like it was so disconnected from his character, and it felt like it was just like social commentary a little bit.
No,
like,
but they established.
But he even said he didn't care about.
No, that's what I mean. It's like he was completely disconnected, but I did like what it did for him. Like he created this movement that he thought like he was championing, or like the people like found a way to like adore him. So it was, I think that's why he didn't kill himself. And I did like how he sort of had these like weird followers, but I didn't like how completely different they were from him, because like I would have liked it better if he actually had like a philosophical argument.
Oh, because he didn't. Yeah, it was just like,
and like these followers actually like, because what essentially happened was he killed these people on the thing, and he made a statement accidentally to people. It wasn't his statement.
Yeah.
But and then they followed.
It's because of who he killed.
Yeah, it's because of who he killed. They misunderstood. These followers followed that false statement, and then I would have liked it better if he like the false statement was closer to his ideology.
I kind of liked that it wasn't. I feel like that's what also makes it more real, because I don't think he would have had as many followers.
But there was a statement. No, but there was a statement. They thought in him killing 3 rich guys.
Yeah.
That it was a class thing.
No, we got
right?
that. Yeah. We got that, yeah.
But then Thomas Wayne goes on TV and he says that any type of person would do this are just a bunch of clowns. Hence, you get all these people in mobs wearing clown costumes.
But what Chris is saying is that he would have liked it better if those people were more like in line with his actual reason for killing.
So
but nobody knew the reason for killing.
No,
right?
I know.
But they surmised it from like what happened, and I think what ends up like when that happened.
I liked it. I think that made it real.
But the thing with Joker is, I think what he ended up doing is he started believing his own like shit. I guess in the end, where he's like, I don't think and he even says himself like, no, that's not why I did it, like or something.
I don't believe in anything.
Yeah,
he's
an anarchist. Yeah,
right. And so when that does happen, and then this character Arthur Fleck is sort of obsessed with the idea of being loved because that's the one thing he never really was in life.
He just like felt connected to the people.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, why don't I take up this cause? Like, I feel like it was that he's like, I'll take up this cause because of.
I don't know if he did take up the cause.
I don't think he took up the cause. I think he was like, I don't care. They love me.
Exactly.
So like, those are the trade-offs. So it's either. So I like the whole thing where he's like, he's content with living in this delusion that like these people love him. And so that's the give, right? But the take is like those people are completely meaningless because they don't actually. But
because he's not stable, he doesn't care.
I get it. But the thing is like, it makes me not care about the movement. It makes me like. It kind of alienates in my mind this whole like class movement thing because it's completely meaningless because the vehicle in which we're seeing this movie is through Arthur Fleck and he's making a statement like
I like that something else was going on in the world though.
But
like, to me, that's
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're not just seeing everything through Arthur Fleck's eyes.
Yeah.
We're seeing it through society's eyes too and the media.
Yeah, for sure. But I had already given up that nothing in this movie really mattered except for Arthur Fleck because of what I already said, that everything was sacrificed for his performance. So I had already given up like, okay, so like side stories are out the window.
Oh, like you were saying that you were hoping that would have turned into a side story.
The thing was like if it was a side story and if this movie was more primed to do side stories, which it wasn't because everything was sacrificed for his performance, I would have liked it for sure. But because everything was already strawmanning his performance, like this whole side story of him of these like classist like activists didn't matter to me because I had already given up on all the supporting cast. I don't think it was supposed to
matter though. I think it was just supposed to be a background thing.
So that's what I don't like.
Yeah.
Why is it like?
No, it was supposed to matter. It was supposed to echo. It was supposed to echo the entire point of the movie.
It wasn't supposed to matter that they had a different motivation for following him than what his intent was.
I just think it would have came across better if the motivation was just a little bit closer to what he actually is.
But I think it made it more realistic. Like there would not have been so many.
I don't
want
realistic, man. I want story. I don't want realistic.
So for me, I get like all your points in terms of like the whole classes thing. Whether it should have been of more importance or not. And I guess like this main takeaway, and the only reason I can sort of think of them making it a background thing more so than sort of his other stuff, which is his mental health, right? And I think that was like the main focus of this story. I mean, definitely you had the elitism, classism, things that we see today, people getting away with shit because of the suit they wear and how much money they have. And he became the unlikely face of this cause because that's not what he was going for sure.
That wasn't his intention. No.
Yeah, that was a misintention, and maybe he does take up the arms in this cause.
But opportunity though, for sure.
Because so can I just make a small point? Like because so Arthur Fleck his whole thing was like alienation, like he was alienated, and the thing was like only Thomas Wayne was really like the only elitists that were. I mean, but obviously besides the subway people, like his whole point, obviously not the character's point, but like the point of that we're supposed to get from this character was, you shouldn't alienate people. And the thing was like, he was being alienated by his peers, and his peers were low class, right? Like even his clown friends, Brian Callen, and like his mother, everybody was alienating him, and this whole classes divide thing kind of distracts from that because it makes it seem like higher class people alienate lower class people when really his whole thing was that like everybody alienates everybody. He was completely alone on the bus everywhere, right? So it's like it kind of like it was just this like.
But in a way, it's kind of perfect too because his own cause, like his own followers, don't get him.
But that's the thing.
I do like that part. I do like that part of it.
This is where I kind of get why I think I just hit me right now. Why it makes sense is only because without that, how is Joker supposed to get his following? Because they wouldn't follow him.
They could. I mean, I don't have time to sit here, but I think he could have conveyed. I think it was an easy
way to get it because it's like people are already unhappy in the city. People already feel like these people are like at the top. They already feel this way. So all it takes is this one guy dressed up as a clown and it
was a good way to put Thomas. It was a good way to put Thomas Wayne on the other side of that for sure.
Yeah.
But like, don't tell me that there's no way. I think
there's no way, but I think that's the motive.
I think it was an easy way without having to do too much
and that's
more
my problem.
Story,
it's like why make the like that? That's kind of my gripe with it. It's like it's too easy. It's just like there, you know.
Gotham City's always been a city where, they were just waiting for the the shoe to drop.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
the shoe to drop in terms of these class wars, right?
Yeah,
That's what I
It's
felt. I
always
already
been
felt
like that.
tension in this world.
It's
so
always
kind of
been like
fit.
that.
It
It's
kind of-
always been like that with Gotham City. I got to push back on one thing that you said in terms of Arthur, the time in which he chose to, like, the whole thing about killing himself or killing Murray, right?
Okay.
I honestly feel like so you said that he didn't want to kill himself because he had the adoration, right?
Okay.
But when he gets into he's already has that adoration when he gets to the green room. Like, he literally escapes the subway full of people adorizing him, right?
Why was he still putting the gun to his mouth?
Yeah, exactly, right?
Because I think he was going through the motions. I think you're probably right. Like,
dude,
I'm not too married to that point.
Like I'm really married to the idea that because Murray was so shitty to him, and he thought that Murray wasn't going to be that shitty to him, right? He idolized Murray, right?
Yeah.
And then when Murray let him down, and he realized, you're just as awful as these other fuckers that I killed, boom. Right?
I think he already knew that going onto the show, though.
I don't think he did.
Oh, I think he did.
I don't think he did at all.
He knew that he was being made fun of when he saw the clip, and he knew that the invite onto the show wasn't pure of intention. Like, he knew that it was because he. I'm not saying
that it was completely void of criticism.
Yeah.
What I am saying, though, is I think that he had a certain level of respect for Murray when he went on the show, right?
But I think he went on the show knowing he was going to get caught and everything. Like, he planned it all out because the police were already chasing him when he was on his way to the show.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And he took all his shit. He wasn't planning to go back home.
No, I get that, but I'm not arguing why he was on the show. I'm arguing the fact that he intended to commit suicide on air instead of killing Murray Franklin.
I don't know about
and Murray Franklin drove him to kill him.
I think he went there planning to kill Murray.
What do you think of this?
Because he was playing with the gun in the.
I mean,
that doesn't mean he wanted to kill himself. Like, he thought it was a joke about.
I think he wanted to kill himself.
No, he definitely wanted.
He wanted to kill himself, but I don't think he wanted to. I do think he wanted to kill Murray first, and then.
Christina, he mimed killing himself in his apartment, and he mimed killing himself in the green room.
But he also said it was a funny joke, and nobody could get the joke.
It's not.
Okay, guys. So, didn't he mime shooting Murray and then himself?
No.
Okay, so the whole thing about the joke thing, it's like, I actually think he was gonna kill Murray and himself. Maybe, like, you saw it twice. You don't think?
I think he was gonna commit suicide
and not kill Murray at all.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And then
Murray pissed him off on stage, and that's why he killed him.
That's why he says to him, he goes, "You're awful too, Murray." And then he said and then his final line when he says, "Knock knock, guess who's there?" Blah 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 blah. What is it like? Don't piss off a loner with mental health problems, because what's going to happen to you is you're going to get what you deserve. And he turns around and he shoots him.
But that's why I think it seemed rehearsed. It seemed like he practiced.
For me,
I don't think it was that rehearsed.
I don't know either way. And I think, again, this is the unreliable narrator. And you can say, like, yes, the gun going into the mouth is a symbol of him wanting to kill himself.
Under the chin, yeah.
Under the chin and stuff. But there are people, and it is the people who cope with, like, mental illnesses and depression, and where they go through the motions of pretending, and that sort of helps their brain. It's not everyone does this, but it is a thing that does happen.
Sure.
That's kind of like the soul self-harming as well, which is like, you sort of do that to feel alive in a sense. It's like a weird, sort of, I don't want to say weird, but
adrenaline.
It's like adrenaline. Weird, so I don't really know where his mind is at. I don't know if his original intention was to kill Murray or himself. His original intention was someone was going to die.
Yeah.
That's something.
So this is what I think. This is my final thought on this. So I think at that point in his life, he was like lost everything. The only thing he had left was I kill Murray and then I kill myself. So that was the last loop. So he had three influences that he had to close the loop on. One was Thomas Wayne, and he closed it in a way he didn't want to. And then his mother, which we all know how that is.
And so that brings up another question: did he go to the hospital to kill his mother on purpose, or was
was
that opportunistic? He did it because he could.
No, without
that one seemed premeditated.
So then, shouldn't it have been premeditated?
Okay, hold on. Let me finish my.
That was vengeance. That was vengeance.
Yeah. So there was three loops that he had to close. Like Thomas Wayne, he closed it in a way he didn't want to. His mother, he closed. And then in his mind, there was nothing left, but he needed to close Robert De Niro's character and then shoot himself. So what I think was he wanted to shoot him and shoot himself.
Yeah.
But because he thought there was nothing left for him. But I think as soon as he shot him, he felt something else. Like he felt like there was another point of existence. Because after he shot him,
anarchy.
He started talking to the camera. and he felt like there's still a purpose. Like there is not nothing like on the other side of killing Murray and killing himself, because he felt like he found a different purpose, right? Like because then he started talking to everybody, which before he didn't care about. You know what I mean?
Well, he was also saying that he found enjoyment in the killings. Like he started to like it.
Sure. But if we cycle back to that delusional sequence where he's on the show, yep, and Murray's hugging him, he's like, you're the son I wish I always had, blah 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 blah, right? Clearly Fleck has this vision of Murray as like some sort of father figure.
Yeah, but that was
right?
He was betrayed though. Then he realized that the father figure betrayed him.
I get that, but I think the opportunity to go on the show could definitely, quell that anger, instinct to want to, or that anger to kill him, right? I think once he gets on the couch next to him and he thinks, oh, Murray's going to be fucking cool with me. And he was nice to him in the green room too.
Yeah, he was.
Right?
Yeah.
He was really nice to him in the green room. He's like, can you call me Joker? First of all, that was awesome. Yeah. I really love that they threw that in. That was really awesome. Really well thought out in terms of like, kind of setting up the name. And yeah. So anyways, I honestly, truly believe Arthur Fleck's intention. Which also makes me think
he wasn't planning on killing himself, because he already created this character in his mind when he went on the stage, and he wanted Murray to like introduce that character to the world on camera.
The character was 100% suicidal, without a doubt. Okay.
I'm not saying he's not suicidal, but I'm saying that he didn't intend to kill himself then and there.
No, he did. He 100% did.
I think he did too.
Yeah, but we can't say he 100% did. We don't know, but yeah, there are things that like point to that being true as well. But I don't know.
I think there's a high likelihood.
Because I just feel like he was connecting to that audience of his clowns or whatever, and he wanted them to see.
And that's why he didn't kill himself. But he didn't plan to kill himself.
He didn't really give a shit about those people, though.
But I feel like that's
what he gave a shit about the adoration.
He didn't give
a shit about... But he didn't get that
until
after.
No, he's been getting that the whole time, dude.
Sure, but he went right through that subway car without even addressing it, without even like responding to it.
He was smiling.
He was smiling.
No, he was smiling watching the cops get the shit kicked out of them.
Yeah, but so that subway thing, I actually did feel like he was walking around like feeling like, so even
I felt like he was powering up.
I felt like he was starting to have an ego.
And then like even when he walked away from the cops, it wasn't just like he felt like he found a room that accepted him.
Yeah.
Right? Like he took a mask and he didn't feel like, I don't know. I felt like the whole subway thing was him like finding a room that actually loved him. Right? That nobody was like scared of him. But I do agree that he was gonna kill himself. But like after shooting Robert De Niro, he like, he found a different purpose.
Well, we could debate this.
Yeah, we could debate this movie for a long time, man. Like it's such a rich film, and it's got so many ideas and themes, and it's such a good movie, and I hope everybody goes and sees it and just sit through it. I know it's going to make you feel uncomfortable, but it's a really good film, and it's really fucking important, and it's beautifully shot. Like they really tied in the 70s perfectly. Like the way colors. That the colors, the way that they bring in the wardrobing, the cars, the backgrounds, just amazing production design on this film. Amazing.
There was one thing that I found on the internet where it was like how the hell did some like no-name comedy club film Joker bombing?
Yeah, a lot of people said that.
Like was somebody Instagramming?
Like there was no YouTube, there was no Instagram.
I said that. I said that. Right? Yeah, I said that.
I've seen that on the internet too. A lot of people called that out.
Yeah, I'm gonna suspend my disbelief on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I saw a lot of Taxi Driver, and I saw a lot of King of Comedy, and I saw a lot of nods to Scorsese's work. Even the opening title card and the script was very like My Dinner with Andre and Taxi Driver and those types of films, and I really, really enjoyed it. So let's go around and just kind of...
Wait, before you do that, there's one thing I do want to ask everybody. So that scene when he was running at the very end with his bloody feet, real or no?
Yes, real. He killed her.
Yeah, I think it's real.
I think it's real.
I
think that if any scene that I've doubted a lot in this thing, that is the one scene I really don't doubt.
Yeah, and that's homicidal. He's gone homicidal.
And then he started just killing random people at that point.
Yeah,
too.
Spree killer. Yeah, he's gone homicidal for sure. He's definitely.
Why, Chris? Do you think?
He's definitely involved in the Joker.
I'm not sure because like It was like too perfect. Like nobody was there. Like no guards, right? I mean, we've seen lax security.
Well, he got
before,
chased.
I guess,
He got chased.
yeah, he got chased after, but nobody.
That's a good
was watching,
point, though.
like,
Yeah, there definitely would be a guard out the door if they knew that he was a killer.
And it was like too picture perfect. Like he was like complete. Like the sunset was there, and he was like
perfectly in white.
That's the other thing.
It was too picture
This is
perfect.
something we actually didn't bring up, and I know we've been talking about this a lot.
We also don't know if that
but...
was right away after he killed the people, or if some time had passed.
Yeah. So like this is where the whole whether or not he stood on that car with all his followers exists, because a lot of people are saying that like he got arrested, and then that last part was him thinking like, so that part of him standing on the car and all his people were around him, he was thinking of that, and that's why he was laughing when he was talking to that lady. So that like people are saying that part wasn't real, and he was just thinking of it.
But this is as I was saying, this is where I think one scene we did not talk about is that he was in there before. And we have a scene of him hitting his head against a door multiple times. Yep. And we don't really know why he was let out or if he was there before, if that is a flash forward or whatever this is. Is he in there imagining that he's out and creating the story, or what did he go into? So that's like a whole nother
That's a good point too. That's a good point too. And we don't know why he's out, right? Like there's been stories about mental health institutions in the United States that will literally let numbers of prisoners or let numbers of patients out because they don't have the room for any more, right? So that shit happens periodically. You know, you never know.
I got the impression that instead of going to jail, he got put into a mental health institute.
He was in Arkham.
Yeah, so I just thought that to him that was funny because like, oh look, I didn't even go to jail for what I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Anyways, you're saying.
So I just want to give everybody's takeaway from this film because like it had a profound impact on me. I don't know if it hit you guys as hard, but what I walked away from this is that all the ills in society that we deal with in terms of these mass shootings, you know, incels, racism, you know, these issues where mental health is kind of a root issue. We really need to stop being so quick to insult and dismiss these people and to criticize them. Granted, they do some fucking horrible things.
Have you ever been into a forum where they talk to each other? It's quite scary. As they kind of just fuel each other's delusion.
Christina, I don't want to debate like whether like I'm trying to say that it needs to start with we need to start from a place of empathy.
Yeah.
Because people won't get to that point.
I agree with you, but then it's really hard to empathize with those stories once they've already got to a certain point.
No, because like you don't know what these guys might need to get back on track. You don't know what it's going to take to maybe pull them out of the weeds and to give them a new lease on life, right?
Yeah.
Like people can't go through life thinking that you only get one chance at it, right? Because if that's the case, then most of us are fucked the first time we screw up.
Yeah.
Right? Like everybody should get a second lease on, like a second opportunity to lead a decent life, right? And who knows, maybe someone who had an opportunity to personally connect with the guy who did the van killing in Toronto, maybe somebody missed an opportunity to hug that guy and tell him that, they could help him and they could make his life a little bit better, right? Because that guy totally intended to kill himself, right? And he wanted to take people with him, right? And we really need to start addressing the root issues of these things and stop looking and reacting to them. That's all we do is we fucking react. Yep. We get angry, we get pissed off, we call them names, we call them fucking crazy, we tell them, how disgusting and horrible they are. That's not gonna help. That's not gonna do any good at all. Right? And that's what I took away from this fucking movie, because if somebody had fucking hugged that guy and tried to like offer him some kind of compassion, some kind of empathy, if Thomas Wayne had fucking hugged that guy in that bathroom and said, I know you've had a really fucking hard life, let me try and help you, we probably wouldn't have got the ending that we got.
Yeah. That movie was full of missed opportunities to turn Joker into like a decent person.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get that for sure.
You know that Titans episode where Trigon offers Dick a whole bunch of opportunities to kind of put his life back to like take the path to get him back home to be with his wife and his kid.
Yeah.
And he keeps taking the darker path.
Yeah, goes all the way.
So I'd say anyone who's been bullied, if you see like, I don't know, I've been bullied as a kid. So
anytime
I
Brutally.
see someone else getting bullied, I definitely always do try to step in and like stand up for them or come by their side or ask them if they're okay. If I see someone crying in a bathroom, I'll try to go up to them and like talk to them, see if they're okay, same kind of thing. So yeah, I think definitely. I think most people do try to do those things, but maybe you are going to miss opportunities sometimes. Like sometimes you're just not going to know, or someone's just not going to open up.
And I think a way to sort of solve this, and then this is to all our listeners as well. I think one of the most important things you can do if you're having these emotions and feelings, because sometimes you can't tell too, because people are really good at hiding themselves. There's a mask that like everyone wears. I think a really important thing you can do, and I know it's hard, is to sort of reach out for help. I know that there's a lot of, depending on where you live, there might not be places where you can go for that, but there might be, and you should definitely like look into it if you can, and sort of go and talk to someone if you feel this way, because you're not alone, and I think you'll be surprised there might be more people out there that want to help than you think that there might be. You know what I mean? I think it's a call of action for us to sort of empathize with people for sure and understand. Doesn't mean we condone any behavior. Because
no, we're not being apologists. That's not what's happening here.
But what
we're saying, address the root issues.
Yeah, for sure, which is what I was saying. And then also, if you do have feelings of feeling alone or anything, and maybe not exactly feeling what the Joker felt, but anything else, I think we're living in a time where it's sort of more okay for you to say, I feel like something's not right. I have these feelings of feeling sad or depressed or lonely. And hopefully, you can find someone in your life or maybe some sort of, tool or something that can help you, whether it be like a hotline or like going to a therapist or something like that.
And sometimes connecting with people is the thing to do. And I think that's why these people are going to forums and trying to like talk to other people who have that. And I've seen that help some people.
But that's the problem, because
so it depends on what kind of forum you go to.
Sure.
But there's forums that can be helpful and ones where you can find support by talking about your issues. So it just depends on like what kind of thoughts you're going to surround yourself with online.
It's true. The online community can be, I've known people who go online and have found like great communities that are really supportive of them and really helpful, and they've sort of made friends online. Like I know a lot of people do that, especially in the game community as well. Like you game with these people forever. So
it depends on what your issues are. Like if you're just lonely, sometimes you can find places to make friends online.
Sure, but if you're an angry alienated person and you go to the wrong community, you're going to find somebody who's going to help you perpetuate those ideas.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be careful what community.
That's why I'm saying that's why we need to start addressing these root issues, right? We need to figure out why people even begin to feel like this. Like, where is the impetus for these things, right? And that's what I think this movie is telling us. Is just like you really need to stop reacting and start taking preemptive action to try and prevent these fucking things from happening. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because somebody could have fucking changed that guy's path in that movie. I'm not saying, like, obviously the writers, they wrote the movie to be this way. I'm just saying if this was a real life scenario, somebody could have stepped in and made a difference. Right? So.
And on that note, I think we really talked a lot about Joker this
last. It's a powerful film, man.
It's definitely can. Yeah, I like I've said this before a lot, is that coming from this movie, we all might get like different messages and stuff, and what we kind of take away from it. I think it was a really interesting movie. I thought it was cool. I like what they did. It definitely had its parts where I was like, okay, I don't know about that. And I think a lot of the things you've seen online, people say, I think I'm kind of, when it comes to like, laughing disorder, all those other things. But I think overall, I did really enjoy the movie. I thought the message was cool. And I like movies that make you feel uncomfortable as well. I think it's a interesting, cool place to be.
Cinema should make you think, and it should make you reflect on the world you live in, the people you surround yourself with, and the life that you're leading. That's what cinema should do. That's what it's there for, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. That's what I feel every time I watch The Flash. I think this is the life that I should have.
You want to be a speedster?
Yeah. Or like friends with a speedster.
I'd love to be a fucking speedster. That'd be awesome. Cool. Well, guys, I didn't mean for things to get that heavy at the end, but I had to get that out because that's exactly what the movie did for me. And if anybody has any problems, that was that was my personal opinion. That was my personal editorial. So if you have an issue, feel free to contact me on Instagram at meanwhile_pod. just address everything to me, but that's how I feel. So, moving on. Oh, guys, like, what were your takeaways from the film?
So yeah, I think I thought the performance was really, really well done. I think that's one of my favorite things about it. Obviously I had problems elsewhere, and I think the commentary of the movie is very powerful as well. And it's always just like, for me, it's like, to add to what you guys are saying, you guys were going through, like, you guys are kind of on the same page, or like on opposite sides of the page. But for me, I think the to connect your points, all three of you, is like, reach out to someone who's different than you, right? Because it's like, when you reach out to somebody who's the same as you, now it only depends on how good or bad your idea is. If it's a good idea, it's gonna keep getting better. If it's a bad idea, it's gonna keep getting worse.
Yep.
So I think like the problem is, when you guys talk about like forums and stuff, it's like, that's all closed systems. The problem is the walls. The walls keep you insular and keep you feeding on your own on your own one idea. And it's like, that's the biggest problem of our like online community, and like in our, there's not enough outreach. It just hits a wall, and it rebounds to your group of people. And I think that's why I had a problem with the whole like high class, low class in this movie, because I thought the message in the movie, which is a strong message, is reach out to somebody who's different than you. And it was like, and it's like, Joker was completely different from everybody else, every other character in the movie. And it's like, if somebody just reached out to him, that would have been one thing, right? Like, just try to understand each other, guys. Like, fucking.
Well, he did spare the life of the one person who was
exactly, who was like nice to him. So,
and that's honestly, that was one of the reasons that motivated my takeaway so much, was because he was nice, because he let that guy go.
Yeah.
Like, that told me that this was not just our Joker. This wasn't just DC's, like, maniacally laughing with bombs and laughing gas, right? Like, not that
guy's
guy.
gonna be traumatized for life. They're not gonna be
100%.
friends.
Oh, for sure. Oh, without a doubt, that guy's gonna be traumatized. He probably ruined his psyche, for sure.
And as far as like criticizing the movie, or like critiquing the movie, like I said, like, I think his performance was like the main and only thing, and like everything else was kind of like put in the wayside for that. And I think it was a good choice, because like his performance like was amazing. Obviously had problems somewhere else. And I don't consider this as a Joker. Like, I just consider this as like Joaquin Phoenix's performance. I'm not like, I don't want this to be like any sort of Joker, because Joker is like a different feel for me, in my opinion. But yeah, so like, as a movie, I loved it.
So yeah, one of the things that we haven't covered yet is performances. So we got Robert De Niro, we've got Joaquin Phoenix, and we've got a lot of kind of, I'd say probably the other two biggest roles are Thomas Wayne and Arthur Fleck's mother. But I want to focus on Joaquin Phoenix's performance, because I think it's unbelievable, the transformation that this guy went through to play this part. The way that he, like, the places he went to channel this character are just astounding.
No, honestly, like, his dancing sequence was like any sequence where he danced, but also that scene at the beginning with the one tear we talked about coming down out of his eye.
Yeah.
That was like improv down one take that Todd Phillips did, and he was playing the score from the background, he said, and he cried just that one scene, and that was kind of that take. And I think a lot of people say that Joaquin Phoenix is like a method actor, and I think he is to a point, but they did say like, oh, he was joking on the set and everything. Like, people kind of take that term and use it kind of lightly.
Yeah.
I think he just really has this ability, and we've seen him. He sort of gives like 110 to like all his roles that he does.
Right.
I mean, the craziest thing for me was the weight loss. Like, seeing that weight loss was like hard to see, because like now you look at him, and not only is he like sort of suffering mentally, but you can also tell like physically he is also quite
looked
sick.
emaciated.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the things that was interesting, like the way he moved, and then all the scenes where it would just show his like bones and muscles.
His shoulders were like really kind of like pronounced because of the weight loss. And yeah, he was unbelievable. The physical performance was amazing. The emotional performance was amazing. And the way that he tapped in and out of anger when he needed it, like the scene where he punched off the punch clock in his job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He just and then just like completely went, like.
And I found that his interactions with other characters were kind of interesting too. It's like it was kind of like almost grounded in reality, and was like he was wanting to connect with people, but then never really getting there.
Yeah.
And like that's actually another thing that I kind of relate to in talking to some people too. Just I always kind of just feel like I'm kind of like floating in between people and never really actually connecting with anyone. So
you're connecting, Christina.
In a way.
Well, guys, I think we physically and emotionally exhausted ourselves talking about this movie. Like I said, this film had a profound impact on me. Thanks again for listening. I'm sure you can tell this movie has had a huge impact on the four of us, and we're excited to hear what your guys' thoughts are. So be sure to follow us at meanwhile_pod, and let us know what you think of the review. Let us know what you think of the film. Would love to engage with some of you in some spirited discussion. So we're gonna sign off here. This is Frank.
This is Chris.
This is Christina.
This is Saba.
Peace, guys.
There, dude.
Take care.